Welcome in, Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio. Brand new week. Hope everyone had a fantastic weekend. What a weekend it was in the sports world. Oklahoma State 4-0 as they kick number 25 Kansas State to the curb and earn themselves a top 25 ranking and a top 25 matchup now coming up this Saturday against Baylor, which should be a lot of fun. Two undefeated teams. So, yeah, really good game overall. We're going to dive into that in detail here in just a minute. Crazy games in pro football. We got Monday Night Football this evening we're going to look at as well, and much more here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Zach, how was the weekend, man? Solid win.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
I think that, I certainly was surprised how that first half went. It's amazing what an offense can do when it has most of its weapons back. When a quarterback has talented and experienced receivers to throw to, and what figuring out who your running back one is going to be, which still kind of blows my mind. They put out the updated depth chart today, and it's still Jaylen Warren or LD Brown or Dominic Richardson. Like Gundy said today that LD's probably out. Like, he's going to get reevaluated in a couple weeks.
I heard that.
So, like,
man, what a turn, man.
Let me give you some stats here.
Yeah, from last season to now, wow.
And it's not even, for me, these stats right here, they're not even LD stats.
Mm-hmm.
I got to scroll down a little bit. They're on my Twitter. I put it up yesterday, and I think that it's really important. Through the first 4 games of the season, Jaylen Warren has 504 yards of total offense and 4 touchdowns. The last 2 games, 341 yards on the ground, 81 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
In the last 2 games alone.
And that's been on, almost 60 touches or something like that?
So he had 27, I think?
On Saturday.
On Saturday,
yeah.
And then 31
yeah.
on, or 32 on last Saturday against Boise.
Yep, 59 touches. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy to see because obviously LD was in a situation last year where they needed him desperately when Chuba wasn't either healthy or performing as well, and then LD picked up the slack and literally ran with it. Well, this year, man, Jaylen Warren's been the addition of a lifetime for Oklahoma State so far. Where would they be without his production the last couple of games? I'm not sure they'd be 4-0, so especially at Boise State.
They'd certainly have 504 less yards.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if anyone's going to be picking up that slack. You know, Des Jackson obviously is still injured, and we thought he was going to be a big part of what they were doing. You had to ask Dom Richardson to come in and kind of spell Jaylen, and then, of course, he gets dinged up and has to get that IV, which, of course, he does. It's kind of like the Christian McCaffrey thing, you know. Whenever he got hurt, and we all said, well, you know, look what happened to the first couple of weeks. He was also right on 59 touches, believe it or not. It was kind of eerie when I saw that. Yeah. And all that work, and, you know, he has the hamstring strain. Well, Jaylen Warren, a ton of work eventually, and we find out, you know, he's more susceptible to losing fluids and things like that. It's just how his body works, so he's going to end up requiring a little bit more of a breather here and there. But, man, the work he's put in and what he's done has been unbelievable. I'm going to get right to my grades, Zach, and see what you think about it. I'm going to go to the offense first here. I came out with a final grade of B- for the offense because the first half looked really smooth, really smooth. Obviously, like you said, getting Tay Martin back, it opens everything up for what Oklahoma State wants to do. You know, when they add on to a run game on top of that, it just opens it up. And he worked in sync with Spencer. You know, we finally got to see the actual real first game with Spencer Sanders and Tay Martin that we had hyped up and talked about all offseason. Like, this connection was going to be really, really good. And it was. 9 catches, 100 yards, touchdown. That's what you want out of a guy like Tay Martin, who's really just come into his own when he's healthy so far this season. Like I said, with Jaylen Warren, he's the addition of the year. You know, it's one of those workloads that you also can't expect him to handle all season long, so you're going to have to ask other guys at running back to step up. Whether that be Dom, who's going to probably get more chances early on now, or Dez when he comes back, LD whenever he comes back, maybe. I mean, it's who knows, honestly. But someone else is going to have to. But Jaylen Warren's going to carry the load. We know that. So it was a good first half, and then obviously the second half went a little stale. Now, play calling was somewhat conservative, but at the same time, you were running into a ton of penalties. I saw that stat with the amount of, all these third and longs and second and long thing. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Some of the distances they had to go for first down. So you can understand that played a huge role into it as well. But bottom line, the whole not scoring in the second half thing, again, you're not going to be able to sustain that and win games down the line. There's going to be better teams. Kansas State's without Skylar Thompson in this game, which I told you Friday, had he been out there, I probably would have picked Kansas State to win this game. Now, Will Howard and the other guy, now I'm losing track of his name.
Jaron Lewis.
Yeah, Lewis. Both those guys, just come on, they're not going to win many games overall. Looking back against Nevada when they won that game, they were just happy to be able to run all over Nevada because clearly Will Howard is not going to be the guy, Lewis either, so they need Skylar Thompson to be successful. And then, Oklahoma State takes out Deuce Vaughn out of the running game at least, and that helps too. But bottom line, is going to have to get better. But I'm going to tell you a big reason why I think some of it didn't work out here as far as the offense. A lot of people I've heard today so far are like, man, they got super conservative in the second half and all this stuff. And but it's maybe not the right word to use. It wasn't. And Coach Gundy kind of said, hey, yeah, we kind of just took the foot off the gas and all this stuff. But again, I think if you look back at some of these drives, the penalties played a big part. However, the big thing for me is coaching staff and offense knows and thinks to themselves, and we don't have to go full throttle, and we can even dial it back a ton to where we might not even score in the second half because of our defense. That's in the mindset of them.
Yeah.
And it's not something you want to use as a crutch because it can be used that way down the line, but they do bail Oklahoma State out at times. They've done that for the last couple of years. They get comfortable, the offense does and the coaching staff does, knowing that the defense is going to go out there and just have a game every single time, it seems like. At least it started this year, too. So I think that that's something that you got to balance out. Mike Gundy's thinking to himself, I can probably get away with this against this Kansas State offense, right? Because they're not moving the ball. They can't do anything against our defense. So I can get away with being conservative. If we get in a third and long, second and long, whatever, let's just run the ball. Let's get out of here with this victory that we have right now because our defense is so good. But he understands that's something that has to change down the line. Because even the Baylors of the world, Zach, you saw what they did against Iowa State. Even the Baylors of the world, the Oklahomas, the Iowa States, all these teams down the line, you're going to run into situations where it's not going to work.
Yeah.
No matter how good the defense is, you can't ask that much of them every time.
Well, I will say the good thing, just like Boise State, is Kansas State had the ball just 10 minutes in the second half. Oklahoma State's offense had the ball for 19 minutes and 47 seconds.
Which is part of it, right?
That right there is one of the reasons that you can afford to dial it back so much and get so vanilla because your defense isn't on the field for 20 minutes.
Right.
It'd be different if Oklahoma State, they were still holding Kansas State, but Kansas State had the ball for 14, 15. We'll just use the first half, for example. Oklahoma State had the ball 15 and a half minutes. Kansas State had the ball for 14 and a half minutes. If that were like that in the second half, things might have looked a little bit different because they're on the field for another 5 minutes. 5 minutes of game time is a lot of time. The last drive of the game, Oklahoma State, I think they got the ball back with 5:37 left in the game and then ran that clock out. You're telling me that Kansas State defense wasn't just absolutely exhausted, even though Oklahoma State didn't score. Now, moving forward, I think once you get into Baylor, I don't think you can afford to not score in the second half.
Sure. And that's what I'm saying is Gundy's strategy in this one was he thought to himself, and it was kind of, we've seen it, even against Missouri State, if you will, at times, it was kind of the same way. It was like, let's just kind of use what we have here. Let's see if we can do this balancing act of, like you said, holding onto the football for long periods of time.
Well, it's like what he said today. He's like, you go back 2011, you go back multiple years. All right, I'm going to get up, I'm going to go to the bathroom. By the time he got back, there could have been 2 scores.
Right.
Now, you got time to get up, go to the bathroom, get something to eat.
And as a fan base, you are more attracted to seeing an offense continue to be aggressive.
Yeah.
And this offense, right now, the way they were clicking, had that ability. But I think in Mike Gundy's mind, he's sitting there thinking to himself, like, let's kind of chill with let's get our run games kind of just going, make it, take a lot of time off the clock. Let's see if we can convert some third downs. Let's, like you said, use all this time, and our defense will take care of the rest. And he was trying to make sure that he pushed all the right buttons in that scenario to where they could literally go a half without scoring and still come away with the victory.
Well, and think about how much different that game would have been had there not been the 2 holding penalties on Jake Springfield, because one of those was huge.
Yeah,
one of those brought back a pretty big play. Tay Martin had a pretty big catch. 20+ yards, and it got called back on a pass interference. If you don't, and it was the first I think it was late in the third quarter or early fourth quarter, there was a play. I think it was it was a huge catch down the right side. It was the first time they'd got a first down. That's the first time they had moved the ball across midfield, and then like a play later, it was a relatively big play, but there was a 10-yard holding call that moved them back across midfield, and they ended up punting on that drive.
Yeah, and this is good numbers right here. In the second half alone, they had a 2nd and 25, a 3rd and 20, a 1st and 14, and a 2nd and 26, and a 3rd and 16.
First half, they had 1 penalty for 15 yards.
Yeah.
The second half, they had 7 for 64.
That's crazy. And I'm not making excuses. It's their fault. They're going to call on penalties. But, that
drastically changed the outcome.
It did. Big time played into it. Plus, on top of it all, you missed a couple of field goals. That would have been, 6 more points that you could have set. And it would have looked better on the stat sheet at the end of the game when you go, wow, we didn't get shut out in the second half.
Well, I think even if you don't keep the pedal to the metal and you don't go out and score 21 points, I think if Oklahoma State just scored one time, if they'd have scored 1 touchdown into the third quarter, that would have been it.
Yeah.
Because Kansas State came out and they scored that 7 points. I think it was in the third quarter. Defense gave up a touchdown and things were like, oh my gosh, our offense can't run anymore. Like there were some boos coming out, and I'm like, they just scored 31 points. They put up almost I think it was close to 500 yards of total offense. Settle down. This offense isn't stagnant. The offense didn't just learn how to or forget how to play football. Like there's a strategy behind it. But if Gundy would have okay. Now, and I'm not saying that he held them back, said do not score.
Yeah.
But if he would have been like, okay, guys, let's go out there and play like we did in the first half. We're gonna call some plays. We're gonna call up some screen plays, which really worked well in the first half. We need to score a touchdown here, and they would have done that. Everything would have it would have soothed a lot of fans, and you would have seen a half empty stadium by the start of the fourth.
Yeah, I think the frustration from the fans comes because they saw what happened in the first half, and they're like,
this is it.
They're like, thank you.
Finally.
That's what we've been waiting for.
First time they hit 30 all season long.
Right.
Did in the first half.
It was the first half. They thought they were going to put up 45, 50 points in this game the way they were moving. This wasn't supposed to be a high-scoring affair. So they were thrilled about it. And then they see what happens in the second half. They're like, why? I think in some of the minds, it's like, why can't we just have a full 4 quarters of what we just saw? And it's not easy to sustain the level they were playing at because it was a great first half. But I'm going to give the offense overall B- for that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I think the minus for me, and it's unfair on the offense, I think the minus for me would probably come from the 2 missed field goals. However, they were 45+ yards. Those were some pretty intense field goals to miss.
I saved that for special teams.
Yeah, so I think that would probably play into it.
Yeah.
I'll give them a B. I like a B because you look at how solid they were in the first half. They were really clicking Jalen Warren. I mean, they tripled the run yards that Kansas State allows. Tay Martin was huge. Spencer Sanders, easily, that may be the best game he's played.
It's in his top,
easily
for sure. top 3, 4,
top 2, top 3. I mean, Miami was really, really good. This was this was damn good.
His first game,
completed more than 60% of his passes, threw for almost 400 yards, rushed for I think almost 30, but had a touchdown. Really looked good. The offensive line, super good.
Yeah.
Josh Sills nearly killed a guy on the opening drive of the game. Danny Godlewski ran a 4.4 on one of those plays. Cole Birmingham coming to the defense of Spencer Sanders. I wish he would have done more. Get a nice little shove in there.
Go for it, man.
Get a little more physical.
That was a tacky play, man.
So I think the offense, it did stall out at times. The good thing was they sustained drives when it mattered to keep the defense off the field. I'll give them a B, and I'll put a good portion of that conservativeness on the coaching staff, but I think the offense as a whole played well.
And they get to benefit from that defense. They just do. They understand. Not every drive is going to result in points.
Right.
But they understand.
Yeah, this isn't 2011.
Exactly. They get that their defense is going to be there, and that's where I'll go next. Defense, to me, gets an A. They're really unbelievable, man. Too many guys that just always get after it every single weekend. You know, and Colby Harvell-Peel, I thought he looked great. This was his best game by far of the season, not just because of another interception. That's 2 straight weeks, but the 8 tackles. You know, he's flying all over the field. And then you add Malcolm back into that doing his thing. If Colby even beat out Malcolm in tackles this week. That's how good he was. That's hard to do. And then, of course, they just shut down Kansas State again. Now, would it have been different if Skylar Thompson were out there? Yes, I think there would have been more points on the board, clearly, for Kansas State.
First half certainly would have been a hell of a lot closer.
Yeah, we might have had more of a back and forth even then. And Will Howard and Lewis, I mean, these guys, like I said, they're not going to do anything against a top-tier defense in Oklahoma State. And when they took away Deuce Vaughn on the ground, that was going to be a big part of it, too. He had done whatever he wanted so far this season, running the football, and he's hard to tackle. You know, he's a small dude. He's slippery. Gets out of tackles real easy. Had a decent game through the air again, but that's always you're never really going to shut that down all the way. He's just too talented. But shutting down the run game in general, forcing those quarterbacks to have to make plays by themselves, not going to be a good formula for Kansas State. And then, of course, the big one, as I told you this morning, 2 for 12 on third down is all Kansas State was. That's just that is the staple of this defense. They think to themselves every week, what are we doing? We're gonna judge our performance based on what we did on third down.
And those 2 came in the first. They were 2 for 6 in the first half. They were held 0 for 6 in the second half.
And it was just well done, man. Well executed. They had this fire about them just to go out there and you know, you mentioned some of the guys all over the field. Corners played well. And they're making up for injuries at some places. You know, they're losing a guy like Trey Sterling. I've seen a lot of people kind of like brush this off and like, it's Trey Sterling. Like, no, dude, Trey Sterling. I mean, you realize what he brought to this team?
It's a big loss.
So I think it's bigger than some people realize. But Colby really just doing a nice job, and you've got some guys stepping into experiences where you're asking them to do a lot more than maybe they thought they'd have to at this point in the season, and it's just going well, man. I can't give Jim Knowles enough credit because this defense has squarely kept them in being 4-0.
Yeah.
If this defense isn't playing, you know, even half as well as they have through 4 games, I don't know where Oklahoma State stands. Because this was by far the best game all the way around in conference play. You and I mentioned after last weekend, there were questions after every single non-conference game. If this had happened here and it was like on 1 or 2 plays every single time, they could be 0-3. They could have been 0-3 going into that game against Kansas State. But they justified, at least to me, a little bit more the 4-0 start in that one, and the defense was a big part of it.
No, absolutely. And I think this week, I don't know what to think about Baylor. Obviously, they were good enough to beat Iowa State. I don't know what to think about Iowa State. I mean,
by the way, I'm done picking Iowa State, man.
I'm not going to pick them anymore.
They have
it's the same personnel as it was last year, and they're not like that's it for them. They're out of it.
I'm telling you.
So I don't know if that Baylor win last week was as good as it appears on paper, and it might very well be. Okay, Baylor might come in and play, and I think Baylor's going to be pretty good. However, they did lose their starting quarterback. I think that's really important. But I want to see what this defensive line looks like without Brock Martin. You know, Gundy said today that Brock can be back as soon as Brock wants to be back. It's more about pain tolerance because the X-rays and the tests came back negative, so no structural damage, and it was a dislocated elbow.
Yeah, that's good. Yep. He's a big part of it, man.
And Brock is one of those tough wrestlers. Probably misses Baylor. Good thing is they've got a bye week next week, but I think if they play next week, I think he'd play then.
Yeah.
But I want to see how Colin Oliver performs next week. I think that's a big test because you lose Trace Ford at the start of the year. Brock Martin comes up massive. Has a huge start to the year, playing really, really well. Gets injured late in that game, and you're like, oh no, this is bad. You know, come to find out, he's okay. He'll be back. But Colin Oliver, listed at number 1 on the depth chart. I want to see how he performs. The linebackers have been spectacular. The corners came up huge. Jark Bernard had the 3 pass breakups on the opening drive of the game. Corey Black got in there and made some pretty good hits. Same thing with Jabbar Muhammad. I like the way this defense is playing. You know, Jason Taylor had a really good game at 4 tackles at a quarterback hurry. Colby Harvell-Peel. This is the type of year that Colby needed coming off of last year because he's been really solid this year. He wasn't terrible last year, but it was a big dip from what he did the year before. Had like 9 or 10 pass breakups, maybe more than that, several interceptions. So he's making up for last year, and he's showing that coming back wasn't a mistake. You know, he's earning that back end and making it super scary. So I agree with an A. And if they would have held that touchdown, then I'd give him an A+.
Yeah.
So it's just a little knock, just a tick.
Yeah, no, it's I'm with you on that too. And you mentioned Baylor. I mean, this is back to. I think it's interesting to look at their team where they are right now because he's a good QB.
Mm-hmm.
He's played well, and it's just weird to see where they were with Charlie Brewer to now. Charlie Brewer 3 games in with Utah and he's gone.
So it was Texas Tech quarterback that is out for the mid-November.
Oh, okay, yeah,
not Baylor.
Yeah.
That's on me.
And that's what I was thinking is that coming in this year. I remember when he had
Tyler Sloth or Slow or whatever. Yeah,
I remember when Brewer had gone in the transfer portal, and now he's lasted 3 games at Utah and he's gone again. Yeah. What a mess, man. Okay, and last one real quick here. Special teams. I give it a D+ in special teams. I'm hard on them this week.
Yeah, that 98-yard touchdown was the punting game was really good.
Yeah.
The 98-yard touchdown return was rough.
Yeah.
And then 2 missed field goals was rough.
That's why. And it can't happen. You can't have kick return for a touchdown. Come on. That cannot happen.
Well, and Baylor's got a kid that can do it well
special teams like that, plays like that can change a game, man. Luckily for Oklahoma State, it didn't all that much. But
because they scored on the next drive.
Right, so they were able to answer. But Alex Hale, man, he just doesn't look like he has it. Doesn't look like a good kicker to me. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You got to make those field goals. I'm like you. I understand they're 45-plus yards out, but if you don't have the leg, then somebody else will. I mean, it's got.
Well, and that's what's crazy. The misses. He had an extra 10 yards on the end.
Yeah,
he just pushed him.
Right. The distance is fine.
Yeah,
but you got to be able to hit him, man. The accuracy has to be there because if not, you cripple your offense. Knowing they can't be more than 40 yards out. Or they feel like they have to go for it on 4th down or something like that in that weird no man's territory.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that has to be better. Again, this is a game against Kansas State where you're able to come away kind of with a grade like this and still win. But special teams moving forward, Brennan Presley was electric when he got the chance on some return yards. We all know that's always. I thought he was going to break one there.
He was about 1 tackle away.
He was close, and it's gonna happen big time.
Oh yeah. Also, you can't forget the near fumble by K. Martin.
Yes, exactly.
What in the world?
I don't understand, man.
I could see if there was one defender by you.
Yeah.
But you had one in front of you. You had one to the right, and the ball was going right. And then beyond that, the rest of the team was 7 yards away. So it's not like bang, bang, and you can pick up 15, 20 yards. Leave it.
And that's why if you have to have a bad grade, make it special teams. If you're
especially in a win.
Yeah, if your offense and defense are like they were for the most part, you can get away with it. But it doesn't need to be a reoccurring thing.
No, now you go give them a D+ and you look at a loss, chances are you lost because of special
something
teams.
Had a lot to do with it.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. When we come back on the afternoon sports drive, we'll take a closer look at what Spencer Sanders did. Obviously, a huge game stats wise, but we'll dive into why. Why was he able to really just blossom and come out of his shell? Quarterback so far this season against Kansas State. And later on, we've got Monday Night Football picks to get you into your evening. Cowboys-Eagles going head-to-head tonight. We'll take a look at a couple of games across the board that happened on yesterday, as well as a big addition for one team in particular moments before our show. Find out what all that is. Coming up next on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Screaming out at the top of my lungs, tell the world that I found the one. Whoa, my baby's hotter than the golden sun. You make my heart beat like a bass drum. Listen to me now. I've been touched by an angel.
Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio. Patrick Wheeler, Zach Lancaster.
Frank Bonner?
And the immediate.
Hey, he's back.
Oh, Frank is.
Yeah, Memphis. I don't know if it's this week or if it's coming up. Whenever Tulsa's homecoming is, Tulsa's hosting Memphis, and I think he's coming in.
There you go.
Yeah, I think he's going to be back.
Well, Frank, we loved having him on the show. And he's keeping up with him over there and what he's doing with Memphis now. Always looks like a fun time as well. All right, so let's take a look here to what Spencer Sanders did in this game against Kansas State on Saturday, because I thought he looked pretty solid, like you said, overall. And the real reason is, you want to know what the real reason is. I'll tell you, because I don't want anyone to take any of this the wrong way, because I think he played well, and a lot of it has to do based off his talent. But there's a couple of things. Number one, you mentioned the offensive line. When they go back, and I'm sure they already have, right? They look at the tape from that game. They look at all the protection they gave Spencer. They gave him all day to throw most of the time, man. And if they continue to do that, Spencer's going to be able to go through his reads. He's going to find the open man, and that's what he did. So that's number one. He got a lot of time to throw, great pass protection. Number two, the running game was good. When Spencer has a really good running game, he's able to build off of that, right? Jaylen Warren comes out there, continues to rush the football effectively. Spencer has his numbers on the ground, scores one touchdown, obviously. But when that's going, he can build off of that. And the other part of it, too, the Kansas State pass defense, we knew coming in, was not good. But, man, Zach, I'm telling you, I thought they just looked like they had no business being out there. They were so off of the receivers. They weren't bumping any receivers. There was just separation everywhere. And give credit to Oklahoma State's receivers for doing a great job to exploit that. Mm-hmm. And Spencer, he could find it all day. If you go back to a lot of those completions, guys are just open in the secondary, making plays. And he did exactly what he needed to do with what Kansas State gave him. That's maturity. That's what I saw out of him. Was he didn't force anything. And the other big part, Zach, no turnovers. No turnovers, and we know if Spencer holds on to the football and doesn't give it up, right, he's going to have a chance to win a lot of ball games.
No turnovers, I think, for me anyway, for Spencer is the highlight.
Yeah.
Because he was poised in the pocket, he was making his reads, he was going through his progressions, he was hitting open receivers. The running game was massive. Honestly, it was almost like Kansas State didn't expect Oklahoma State to be able to produce on offense.
Yeah.
That's what it felt.
Well, at least maybe throwing him, right?
It felt like they were overlooking Oklahoma State almost. So kudos to Oklahoma State and to Spencer for going out there and taking advantage, because that's the first half you need moving forward.
And that's what I'm saying is that I think it'd be one thing if we saw him go out there and he was still trying to force a lot of throws or force guys that aren't open to try to get there. No, he let Kansas State do what they were going to do. He knew the game plan. He knew the pass defense, what it was probably going to look like, and they exploited that. Give Casey Dunn credit, especially in that first half. A lot of good routes run. You had guys rubbing off, making sure they had opportunities to get open. They ran them well. And, of course, Tay Martin, when he's back, it just spreads everything out. I think Brennan only ended up with a couple of catches, but they were big. They were really impactful. The touchdown was awesome. I mean, that dude, he showed again, he can just bounce off everybody and he'll fall in the end zone for you. So that was probably his best game, one of them so far, even though it was not a ton of work, but he made sure he made the most out of it. So those were little things that I saw out of Spencer. And again, it's not like, he only played well because of this, but he did take exactly what was there. And that right there is a sign of a mature quarterback, because last year, he doesn't do that.
Well, I think what's important is, you talk about he took advantage of what was there. The offensive line's improved. The offensive line played better than it did against Boise State, gave Spencer time to throw. Run block was fantastic. The outside, the screen passes worked really, really well. Now, if they don't work, don't keep going
go
back
away
to
from
them
it,
in
right.
the future.
Right.
Move away. Jaylen Warren, huge. Need him to start hydrating a little bit better, so that way you don't miss him for a quarter, because that was pretty scary when he went down.
Get that dude some fluids.
But that's the important thing is the offense presented Spencer with pristine, ideal conditions and situations, which means the offense is getting better. But then, like you said, that's maturity from Spencer, because he played to the level that the offense was giving him. And I think that's huge. He took advantage, like you said, defenders not pressing receivers, having Tay Martin. And I'll say that, it can't be overstressed enough. Having top receivers back absolutely helps a quarterback. I'm not saying that the other quarterbacks on the roster, on the depth chart, cannot produce. But when you have a guy like Tay Martin that has over 1,000 career receiving yards, when you have a guy that's played 4 or 5 years in college football, knows this level, He's in great shape. He's mentally prepared. That's a hell of a lot better than having a freshman or a true freshman that hasn't played. Now, I love Rashad Owens, and I think that he had a couple of pretty big catches again in this game, and I think moving forward, Rashad's going to be great. But I'd rather have a starter like Tay Martin and be able to send Rashad out there in a substitution type situation than have to start a Rashad Owens and start a J.P. Richardson or anything like that.
It was kind of a tale of two games because against Boise State, Oklahoma State clearly said, look, we're not going to ask Spencer to do a lot here. We're going to ask him to throw whatever it was, 13 times or whatever. We don't have they didn't trust the receivers they had out there, I think it's fair to say. Clearly, the goal was, and it worked out big, was defense, and we're going to run the ball. Now, they didn't know Jalen Warren was going to go for 200 yards, but it worked out, and they relied on their defense, and it worked out. Then all of a sudden, you flip it to this last Saturday, receivers are back that they do trust, and all of a sudden, you're able to open it up. Pass blocking, like you said, you see what happens when he has a clean pocket and is willing to stay in it too. Like, that's the other part of it. We had been, I know I've been critical on that, was his pocket presence, being able to move within it and stay in it. And he gets a clean pocket more often than not against Kansas State and understands. I think that's great for his development.
Well, and he was sacked twice, and at least one of those was his fault.
Yeah.
I think the other one, everything just kind of happened a little too quickly, but one of them was his fault. And honestly, I thought he was going down another time. Like, I didn't see him get that ball away to Brennan Presley. I didn't see Brennan Presley across the middle. I was like, you got to be kidding me. You got to get rid of that ball. And all of a sudden, everyone's cheering. And I'm like, what's everyone cheering about? Brennan Presley's pushing his way into the end zone. I'm like, oh, good for you, Spencer.
Yeah,
all right.
Both teams kind of had one of those. Like, Lewis was...
That was nuts.
Somehow able to find... It was Deuce, right? I think, yeah. And
he was wrapped up, going down, able to find his footing, get the ball off, and then go down.
Yeah.
Like, that was massive.
That was just... And the fact that he knew where his outlet was.
That guy, as the game went on for him, he started making some plays.
Yeah, you give him a full season. Who knows? Who knows?
I'm not saying he's going to go out there and be Skylar Thompson by any means, but you give him a couple more games depending on if Will Howard, what's up with Will Howard, and I think Lewis is going to be pretty decent.
Yeah, he very well could be.
Certainly better than Spencer Rattler. My gosh.
Yeah, come on. I mean, even Lewis isn't going to get booed.
That's sarcasm for those of you knuckleheads that can't infer that.
Booed at his own home field. Wow. That was interesting. I watched the end of that game, and you knew, okay, they're going to get field goal range and win this one. But West Virginia, you just never know, man. What the heck are they going to give you? They could be one of the better teams in the Big 12 at times.
Did you hear about that brawl in the end zone that spilled out onto the field?
I did.
Fans beating the crap out of each other, crashed into the big broadcast camera.
Oh
my gosh!
Typical.
You throw a little controversy into the mix. OU's 4. You would think OU's 0-4.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a mess, man. They didn't like the way the non-conference games went. Too close for comfort.
Thoughts on booing college kids?
Yeah,
should you be able to boo a grown man that's now making money, millions of dollars to play a game?
Yeah, honestly, Zach, I know this for me. I've never really got an issue with and most of the time you're not booing an individual player.
You're booing the performance.
Most of the time, you're just booing it's a nice mix of I'm booing this offense, the coaching staff for the calls, like all of it. I'm never, it seems like we always go like, oh, how could you boo a player? I know we're just booing, this entire group as a whole. Like, come on, I'm not. Sometimes you'll specifically, if they're really bad, it's like, dude, you're terrible. But no, Spencer Rattler, man, he just hasn't played up to expectations this year. I think he'll get it going before it's all said and done. Oklahoma State open, by the way, is a 3.5-point favorite against Baylor. I figured this would be a pick'em game, Zach. They would just throw, and they'll probably go down to 3. They'll probably just throw 3 on there and say Oklahoma State's at home. Just bet at your own risk on this one.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see just how good Baylor is. Yeah, was now they beat the snot out of Iowa State,
and Iowa State. It wasn't a terrible performance overall.
No,
I mean that's the thing. I'm hard on Brock Purdy most of the time. Because he doesn't play as well as I think he actually can. But this was a game where Breece Hall had his way. And
what was it, 17? I think 17 straight games with a rushing touchdown.
Yeah,
which is like one of the longest streaks in the country. Or
unbelievable.
Dating back for a while or something.
27 carries, 190 yards, and 2 touchdowns for him. Brock Purdy, 263 yards through the air, a touchdown and a pick.
Still not bad.
Not overall,
So I don't know if Iowa State is just not as good, or if Baylor's one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah.
But this right here, I think Mike's right. This is the best team Oklahoma State's played so far. I'm still not I don't know for sure how good how good Baylor is, but it's going to be a good game. This might be the game that Oklahoma State can't not score in the second half.
That's what I was thinking too. It's going to be interesting to see because they shut down the Kansas State run game. Baylor's got 3 guys, including the quarterback, that'll carry the football, so there'll be plenty of different looks against them too. But I'm with you exactly. That's probably the way to put it is, if you want to win this game, you're going to put some points up in the second half at some point. We come back on the afternoon sports drive. Monday Night Football tonight. Cowboys and the Eagles. Will give you our picks, tell you which way to go this evening. Coming up next on the afternoon sports drive, Triple Play Sports Radio.
Showed you true colors, I don't like what I see. Story keeps changing, I know what that means. Know what that means, I know what that means. How'd you go from being that somebody I believed into being someone doubting me behind the scenes? Can't forgive it, sorry that I ain't ever received. I mean, least you could have done was gave me an apology. But you're so prideful, yeah, prideful.
Welcome back to the afternoon sports drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster with you on this Monday as we kick off the week. Monday Night Football to save you from your Monday. Can we call them the Monday? We call them the Sunday Scaries. What are the Mondays?
Monday Blues.
Okay. The Sunday Scaries. We got Monday Blues.
We got one, Mondays suck.
Facts.
2, we got to watch Dallas play tonight.
But we can hope they lose.
So they're the Monday Blues until they lose. And then we Monday booze.
Yeah, but then Tuesday we're hype if they lose, and if especially it's like a primetime thing. Let Philadelphia go out there and just come on, hand it to them, man. Why not?
You imagine getting beat by Philadelphia? Yikes.
The Chiefs have them coming up next week, so I think they're thinking the same thing. Like guys, it's one thing to lose to the Ravens and Chargers back to back, but if we lose to Philadelphia,
I'm a little upset because I finally have an NFL team that I actually like.
Yeah.
I'm not just cheering for them because there are a couple of Oklahoma State fans on it. Took a stadium tour, bought some gear.
Yep.
Invest my time. Pat Mahomes is washed. They suck.
Maybe you're the
Season's
problem.
over.
Since you decided to become a fan, you cursed them, man.
I'm done.
They're the dead last in the AFC West, man.
Worst defense on the planet.
Yeah, just season's over. I mean, it's brutal. Don't worry, we'll have plenty on the Chiefs later. So Dallas comes into this game tonight just a 3.5-point favorite at home. Philadelphia's looked not terrible, believe it or not, through 2 games, which I kind of pegged them to end up being one of the worst teams in the league this year, and they still might be. But Jalen Hurts heard all the criticism coming in this season. His name was thrown out there, this as not being the guy. There were a lot of guys saying, hey, we can replace him with this and this and this, and even Deshaun Watson was tossed into the mix. Whether that was a rumor or not, I think it had some steam potentially at one point. But overall, still, he's just not a solid passer. He's erratic when he throws the football. It's kind of all over the place. He's great at running it, and that's what keeps him in there is that he can do a lot on the ground. I think last time out, he had 10 carries, 82 yards, and a touchdown. He only had 190 yards through the air and no touchdowns when they lost to the 49ers. So he's a guy that can do a lot of different things, but until that passing game really kind of secures itself and the defense isn't good enough, this is going to be a team that struggles at times. I like Jalen Hurts. I want him to succeed, but man, he's going to have to. And maybe tonight, the Cowboys' defense isn't great. There's potential for this to be somewhat of a shootout, and he's got weapons. They added Devontae Smith this year, Jalen Reagor on this team, Dallas Goedert at tight end, Miles Sanders can catch the ball out of the backfield. There's a lot of good weapons. So I wouldn't count him out completely. However, Zach, I think I will take Dallas to cover the 3.5-point spread. I like them winning 34-28 in this one. The total was at 51.5, so give me the over. It's not Thursday, so I'm not afraid to take the over. It's Monday, so I'm good with that. I think this is certainly another shootout game, and this is something that this year, this is what they're asking Dallas to do. They're asking Dak to do this, I should say. Is, hey, you're going to be in a lot of games where it's just like last year. You're going to have to throw for a ton of yards. We're going to have a lot of offense because if we don't, our defense isn't going to be good enough to stop teams, and we have to have the ball last and basically score last. That's going to be it. We have to do that every single game, or we're not going to have a real actual chance most of the time.
Yeah.
So that's what they're going to have to do tonight.
Yeah, I think Dallas's defense keeps them in this game. I mean, you look at what Micah Parsons has been able to do. I mean, that defense is pretty solid.
Yeah, and they threw him at last time out against the Chargers at defensive end, and he had like 6 or 7 quarterback hurries. Dude's incredible. He's going to be really good.
Yeah, I'll take Dallas. They'll cover, and I think they'll win by a little bit more than that 3.5. I think I like them 7 to 10 points. I don't think it's going to be a Green Bay 49er game like it was last night. What a game!
If it was, that'd be awesome.
What a game!
What a game!
That, and you get Baltimore game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
insane.
Man,
yeah, insane.
Couple of good games.
Even the Raiders and Dolphins found a way to make it a crazy ending in overtime.
I don't think it'll be like that.
Yeah,
I think it'll probably be over. Well, you know what? It might be close until the end, and Dallas scores one late to really put it away and win by 10.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be one of these games this year, and it could be this one, maybe, but there's going to be one of these games where Dallas is just going to go off offensively. Yeah. And they're going to put up a ton of points and a ton of yards, and everyone, especially the fan base, is going to be like, see?
We're going to win a Super Bowl.
That's coming. And it could be tonight. I don't think quite yet, but it could be.
And then they're going to get the brakes beat off of them the next week.
Right.
And it's going to be like, this is just a setback.
Yeah.
It's a minor setback for a major comeback. We're winning a Super Bowl.
We're still them boys. Oh, puke. No, the thing is, the most interesting part about this offense, and the question was asked. They asked Zeke Elliott. They said, hey, man, you realize your backup basically has outperformed you this entire season. and he actually like addressed it like, I forget what he said. It was something like, yeah, you know, I've heard the talk or something like that. That's a Zeke thing. I've heard the talk, and then he laughed it off. And
it's not talk, Zeke. It's fact.
I think it's kind of a weird, like, he's trying to kind of cover up his, because he knows right now, man. Like, he's still going to get his touches, but Tony Pollard's played like a beast behind him, and he understands, look, he's getting less carries than me, and he's making a lot more out of it. So I need, and I've even in Zeke's mind, at some point he's got to realize, like, I need to step up here, man.
I should probably start producing.
Right, like he used to be a perennial top 3 back when in his prime, and at this point it looks like he's out of it, man, which is crazy to say. But he just, ever since Dak went down last year and even till now, he just has not clicked like he used to.
Yeah.
So they're going to ask a lot. I think we'll see him somewhat featured tonight, but Tony Pollard, man, he's really stepped up. So that's the more drama we can all enjoy involved inside the Dallas locker room. When we come back on the afternoon sports drive, buy or sells coming up next to start off the second hour. And then like Zach kind of preluded there, we'll take a look. Chiefs Kingdom already given up Kansas City 2 straight losses. Oh, my goodness. Last night's game was incredible. Aaron Rodgers, I guess he's not living up to the take him down from in the inside type of
I was going to say, Aaron, I know you're listening. I'm sorry. I was off
Zach
base.
would like to formally apologize.
I was off base. My conspiracy has been crushed.
You know what? Knowing a guy like Aaron Rodgers, he would like seek something like that and be like, I'm waiting for
now, he's going to come back next week, though, and have like 100 yards through the air and just completely collapse, and they'll lose every other game after I apologize.
Say, hey, Aaron Rodgers, did you hear what Zach said about you? Yeah, man, it's just a beautiful mystery, man.
And then he goes out and wins another MVP, and they make the Super Bowl, beat Tom Brady in the NFC Championship game.
Hey, Aaron Rodgers, you coming back with Green Bay? No.
Nope.
I'll see y'all.
I just wanted to prove Zach wrong.
I'll see y'all in Denver.
I proved Gutekunst wrong last year, won an MVP.
Zach now.
I proved Zach wrong this year. I'm done.
It's a beautiful mystery, man. I'll see y'all in Cabos. All right, we come back. Buy or sell, hour number 2, Triple Play Sports Radio.
And I don't know how we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow. Both you and me know we gotta let it go. Laying on the ground, wondering why it's so cold. How we make it out when we make out on the low. Even if it rains, you'd rather make it snow.
Welcome into hour number 2 of the afternoon sports drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster with you. As we kick off this second hour, we'll get into some buy or sell.
Are you buying?
I'd buy that for $1.
Or are you selling?
You'll pick up the phone and you'll sell, sell, sell.
This is Buy or Sell on the afternoon sports drive.
Make money, money, make money.
All right, on buy or sell today, I'm going to go look ahead to Saturday and go straight to Tate Martin, because I think him being back is clearly what Oklahoma State needs as far as how to open up the offense, how to get everybody else involved, believe it or not. building off of what he does, what he's able to do when he's out there. And, I think part of it, too, is he's accepted this role. There were a lot of questions going in this year. Okay, was it going to be him or was it going to be Brennan or what have you? But he's got the experience, and he's kind of taken it and rolled with it. So, with that being said, buy or sell, we see him peppered again with targets and throws on Saturday, and he records 10-plus catches against Baylor.
I told y'all, this isn't a mystery, that Tay Martin is the number one receiver on this team. Y'all shouldn't be sitting there saying, man, this Tay Martin, he's pretty good. He had 6 catches for 107 yards and a touchdown in the first game.
Yeah.
And then the offense got stagnant, and that ain't his fault. And he had 9 catches for 100 yards. Those are the 2 games he played in. I don't count Tulsa because he played 1 snap and then left. He's had 207 yards and 15 catches and 2 touchdowns in 2 games. That's pretty damn good. So don't act surprised that Tay Martin is the guy. He had 9 catches on 12 targets on Saturday. And if the offense doesn't slow down in the second half, he's setting it 12, 13, 14. I'll buy it. Yeah. Because I don't think, listening to what Gundy had to say on Saturday after the game and how he regretted slowing the offense down after the Colby interception, and then today talking about how they slowed it down and they relied on I don't think they do that again. I don't think they, play, all out the entire game, but they're going to have to score points in the second half. They're going to have to continue to keep the pedal down because Baylor's not going to let up. Baylor's a better team than Kansas State. So I'll buy that. I think he has 10-plus catches. I think he has more than 130 yards, and give me 2 touchdowns. I think Tay Martin's that guy, So give me that buy. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's just, averaging over 7 a little bit in 2 games, catches-wise. And I think right now he's good for 8-plus a game around that area. Simply because he's the guy. He's the first read every single time, usually for Spencer. Or if he's not, he's going to find him. And Spencer, when he's been here, has always had the guy that's the safety guy.
Yeah.
And he's always had a good receiver, really good receivers that have been able to make plays for him when he needs it most. And Tay looks to be the guy. Okay, he looks to be the one that's going to slide into that role. And I think Spencer's so much more comfortable when he has that out there. Clearly, we saw that on display Saturday. So the biggest thing is keeping him healthy. Because if he's not healthy, then you're asking a lot of different guys to step up, like you did against Tulsa, for instance. And it can be done, but moving forward in Big 12 play, probably not as much. So he stabilizes a lot of what they do offensively. 10 catches against Baylor, I think, is something I'll be able to buy because of the amount of looks he'll get. And I'm like you, I don't think that the offense is going to be the reins pulled back on it, this upcoming Saturday, because I also agree that I don't think you can afford to do that. Now, if they go out there and blow them out, somehow, then sure, but that's the only way. Other than that, I'm talking all the way through in the fourth quarter, you got to have the aggressive button on. You got to be going for it. Not running the ball in long situations, giving a guy like Tay Martin a chance on third down situations and medium and long and stuff like that, continuing to do that. Also, Tay was really good with his route running again. That's another part of it. He's able to shake his defenders at times. He's able to get a step on them early off the line of scrimmage when he's in man coverage too. So I think that's an important part of his game, and it's keep those ankles healthy, good stuff, like that. He's gonna stay with it. So I think obviously he's Spencer's favorite target, and everyone else just kind of falls in line. So he's in line to me right now, almost about a sure thing for 8 to 10 catches a game, potentially moving forward here, and maybe even also, Zach, that lack of establishing a wide receiver 2 at the moment. It's
Jaylen Warren.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. After last game, he's doing all the receiving work as well, next to Tay. So until that happens, another reason why he's going to end up getting a lot of catches.
Yeah, I'm throwing a curveball. I'm changing it.
Okay.
I'll give my NFL pick second.
Okay.
So buy or sell. Well, first of all, Jaylen Warren was a nightmare. 204 total yards. He had a touchdown. Probably could have had another one there had the offense not slowed down a little bit in the second half. But as we mentioned earlier, in the 4 games so far, Jalen Warren has over 500 yards of total offense in the last 2 games, close to 400 yards of total offense. He had 204 yards on Saturday. Buy or sell, he has 200 or more total yards on Saturday against Baylor.
Yeah, and the big part, we kind of mentioned it, not as much there, but the receiving, what he did in the receiving game was huge.
4 catches on 5 targets for 81 yards.
Yeah, and how many times, Zach, have we come in here after a game and said, throw it to the running backs more?
Absolutely.
They're there.
Every week.
And they did, So another part of the game plan that worked, and they established it and they got it going. The screen pass was a great weapon that sometimes that does work a lot. There's games where it doesn't, but sometimes it does, and that was one of them. Plus, Jalen's just shown that he can be a dual-threat guy. He's going to be able to carry the rock for you 20-plus times a game, but he'll also be able to catch passes, and he's shifty. He's got the burst and the patience. I think he's been just a gem that Oklahoma State has found, and sometimes you do that with transfers. You hit on these guys, they get a new change of scenery, and a new environment and new coaching staff. All of a sudden, things just click. And that's what they're doing with Jalen Warren so far. He's making every single touch count. And I think I know that we talk about the workload and the injury, popped up there, and he's dealing with the IV, all this stuff. I think he's going to be fine.
Yeah, it's cramps.
It's all it is. Keep him hydrated. And I think he personally is good with the workload. He loves being out there every single snap. That's just a player's mentality.
Yeah.
But as a coaching staff, you understand. And they're in a kind of a hard spot with the injuries to the running backs right now. But even when they're healthy, it's like we want to keep feeding the hot hand, and we will. But we also have to do this kind of like delicate balance where we're giving him enough breathers here and there to where he's just not. Because come fourth quarter is what happened.
Yeah.
He's the tread isn't just falling off because he's been ridden so hard this game. So you got to be able to kind of balance that out. I think the coaching staff will be fine. But I personally, when I see him have 30 touches a game, I'm fine with that. I like to see that because he's so productive with it, and I think it's going to continue. You'll get Dom in there, and he'll switch things up for you, and Spencer also takes a little bit of the load off, too, with the run game. But I expect the high volume of touches to still be there for Jalen Warren. So give me that bye because it's something that he's shown he's going to be able to turn into a lot of yards. Breece Hall ran all over Baylor last week. Now, Breece Hall is an incredible talent. But I think Jalen Warren has the same ability. And off this past game, you think that they're going to come into this week and just automatically forget to not throw it to the running back at times? No. They saw what they had giving him the football through passing, and I think that's going to be a big part of what they do against Baylor too. So for me, Zach, it's as simple as looking at the amount of touches he's going to have, and unless he just runs into a brick wall all game, I think he's going to turn that into 200+.
Yeah, I'll probably I'll tend to lean towards buying it as well. You look at what he's done in the past 2 games, and he's been really good. Got to stay hydrated. Gundy was saying that he's sweating buckets before just during warm-ups. Guy's a sweater. Well, true. Okay, that might be true, but you gotta keep. It's the coaching staff. Like, yeah, he might not hydrate, but it's your coaching staff's responsibility to get him hydrated.
I thought when I heard that line that he was a sweater, I was like, isn't everybody on the football field a sweater? Okay, let me understand what that means more.
Yeah. So I need to see him hydrate more. I was okay with the touches. It was 40 or 31, I think is what it was. He had 4 receptions. Yep. So 31. I don't mind that if you're breaking it up a little bit. I don't know how long you can sustain it, but you've got to get more production. I don't know what you got to do, but you got to get more production out of Dominic Richardson. I mean, he had 5 carries for 6 yards. That's not acceptable. And I'm not saying that he's not a good back, but they've got to get that figured out. They have to get more production, especially if Dez is out for however long he's out. I don't even know what it is. LD's banged up. He got hurt in Boise. He'll be out for, Mike said he'll get reevaluated here in a couple of weeks. You got to be able to give Jalen Warren some breathers. It's going to be interesting because Iowa State did go out there and put up a lot of yards on the ground against Baylor. Can Jalen Warren have a similar performance? I think so because, the concern going into Kansas State was being able to put yards up with K-State only having, allowing 54.5 yards a game. They went out and put up close to 150 yards on the ground, so I think that's really important. I think what this is going to do with Baylor, giving up so many yards to Iowa State, they're gonna focus heavily on trying to stop the run, which means that the passing game should be more proficient. So, yeah, I'll buy that. I don't know how much over 200 Jalen gets, but I think that you're looking at, maybe 120, 130 on the ground, and then you can go out there and get, 74, 75, give or take a few. Hell, you could see another 52-yarder you did.
Yeah, the production is going to be there. I don't think
But you got to get back at production.
Sure, and that's the big thing. Long term is what we're looking here. I mean, that just we understand.
You can't sustain this.
Right. It's going to go down a little bit as far as workload overall, but that also means you're able to mix guys in and out. We saw coming in this year, you were going to have 4 to 5 guys carrying the football, and a lot of us thought, okay, well, that could potentially be the case every game. You just kind of stick with who's got the hot hand.
Man, I want to see Zach. I want to see. Now I forget his name. Zach Middleton.
Yes.
My gosh. Yeah. What was there some kind of regression or something? Because that kid is a bowling ball. Mm-hmm. That kid is good. I want to see Zach Middleton out there.
Hey, if these injuries keep piling up, man,
might as well
dig pretty deep. So.
Give him some touches, Mike. I know you're listening. Give my kid give him some touches.
Give him some touches now. So yesterday, I could not believe what I saw. Probably like you as well when you saw the Justin Tucker 66-yard game-winning field goal.
How bad do you have to feel for the Lions fans? Because they're like,
gosh.
He missed it, and then it just goes.
The way that it happened, dude. So Ravens and Lions, it's back and forth game. The Ravens did not look good. The Lions had it in the bag, and of course, out of all kickers, it's Justin Tucker, the most accurate kicker of all time. He's unbelievable. Legatron, they call him that for a reason, right? He goes up there 66 yards.
Crazy.
And when it hits the crossbar, I'm watching the fans behind because I know it's going to become the next instant meme. The fans behind our hands are up like, yeah, it was short. It's going to bounce, and then it bounces over and in, and it's just instant dismay. Only the Lions. So with that being said, buy or sell that he set that record with the 66-yard field goal. Buy or sell that record ever gets broken in the league. Or will that 66-yard field goal record stand for all time?
Yeah, it's a weird thing to think about because the previous record had stood for quite a while. 66 yards is a long time. Like, it did not have any more inches to it. Like, if it had been an inch shorter, it would have bounced off the front, and it would have missed it. I would have to think with the way the athletes are progressing and the way strength and conditioning training has evolved over the years that there's going to be someone within the next 20 years that possibly could break it. I'll probably buy it, but I'm also not saying that 60 plus yard field goals are going to become normal. But you would have to think that with the way strength and conditioning training has been going, with how much stronger athletes are today than they were 30 years ago with how well they condition, I would have to think that there's going to be someone to come along that'll put one across. Maybe not on the regular, but yeah, 67. And that's the thing. 66 is a long way. And if he breaks it, it's not going to be like 68 or 69. It'll be like 67, right? I mean, because that's crazy.
Yeah. 66 is insane. The fact that you can kick one that far, it's unbelievable. And it was so close, man. It looked short, just barely is going to hit that crossbar. But I just thought overall, man, the Ravens looked really sloppy. Marquise Brown, Zach, who I don't have the biggest fan base. Hollywood Brown, such a joke. What a joke of a name. He dropped 3 touchdown passes in that game. 3 of them. And they weren't just like, you got to dive and try to make a catch. Bounced off his hands, 3 touchdowns that he left out there. Like Lamar Jackson put it on the money. Get this man a good receiver.
He has one.
You think Tylan Wallace? You think Tylan would have dropped all 3 of those? No, even I'd be clamoring for Tylan after this one. Like Marquise Brown, dude. And I know it's Hollywood, Florida. It's not Hollywood. Still, Maybe that makes more sense. I don't know. But he doesn't deserve a nickname.
Sense.
He's so average it hurts. And he just
What do the kids say? Boy, that kid's drippy.
Yeah.
He's droppy.
He's droppy. He's big droppy. It's terrible, man. The Lions had it. I feel that Dan Campbell, just to see the pain on his face, because Jared Goff didn't play great at all, but the Lions defense did everything they could. They've actually got a few playmakers on there. The Lions are not a complete stink like they have been in the past. They're going to beat a team or two this year. They'll probably ruin a season maybe down the line. They're a team that if you're in the playoff hunt and you're playing them in the NFC or something, you don't want to face them down the line because you could run into one. But they lack playmakers on the offensive side, and they had the Ravens right where they wanted them. And I'm telling you, I think if you were to ask every single one on that sideline, hey, did you guys feel good about getting Justin Tucker with that 66 yards? Yeah, like we thought, hey, the chances of him making this probably aren't great. And then it would be better to me, Zach, too, if it were a straight shot that had the distance and just went in. But the fact that it has to bounce off the crossbar and give the fans that 0.1 millisecond of hope and then automatically just despair. Only a Lions thing. They're cursed is the first thing I thought. Like, they are cursed. But Justin Tucker's a beast. That's unbelievable. I'm like you. I think eventually down the line, somebody, how we've seen, it kind of reminds me, how we've seen the golfers these days, pro golfers, that have taken the approach of becoming, super buff and like.
Well, it comes from those longest drive challenges.
Yeah, like Bryson DeChambeau, guys like that, who, by the way, just automatically just destroyed one this past weekend.
I didn't watch 1 minute of golf.
I saw, the only thing I saw was highlights, and
the only thing I've seen was who's the Irishman? Or I guess he's not Irish.
McIlroy?
McIlroy.
Yeah, Rory
I guess he's
McIlroy.
not Irish.
Yeah.
He's Welsh or English or whatever he is, Scottish.
Yeah.
I saw his post tournament interview. Like, that's all I've seen. It was a post tournament interview.
Yeah. Well, they dominated the Ryder Cup. It wasn't even close. And DeChambeau hit, it was like 470 something yards. Do you realize how far that is?
Yeah, I could do that.
Like and it's that upper body strength that these young golfers have decided, we're going to adapt, and
all in the hip.
So it makes me think that eventually we're going to get one of these kickers that comes into the league. It's just like this,
like Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah, he's just like this monster of a guy.
Well, and that's what's crazy is you see these kids now. There's high school and college kids that post these videos of them making like 75, 80 yarders, but there's no one in front of them. They're not in front of the crowd.
Right. That has a lot to do with it.
But they're hitting them.
And so I think eventually you're going to see like Sebastian Janikowski's one of the greatest legends in pro football of all time, because he was this big, huge dude that was a kicker. There were like rumors and videos of him apparently used at times to drink beer on the sidelines and just go out and kick, right? Sebastian Janikowski.
The replacements.
Literally, that's who he was. It was so
He's
funny.
Whitey.
It was just a heck of a thing to watch. So there's going to be a guy that comes in with this huge leg at some point, and he's going to take the league by storm, and he'll hit a 67-yarder or something like that. I agree. So I'll buy that it gets broken one day. However, I don't think it's anytime soon.
No.
This is way down the line. Justin Tucker.
Sometime within the next 30 years.
Man. And then Justin Tucker took advantage, right? They're sitting in the dome, so you don't have to deal with wind or anything like that. He saw a 66-yard attempt and lined it up and said, I'm about to boot this thing.
What they're going to do is they'll resort to what happened at the Olympics. They had that robot shooting free throws and three-pointers and half-court shots, and they're automatic every time.
Each team gets one robot.
Teams are going to be like,
kicker.
Where do you want your robot player? Kicker.
Yeah.
Put him at
just
kicker.
Automatic.
Do you want a robot quarterback? Do you want a robot center?
You guys want to go for a 99-yard field goal? Sure.
Yes.
We got plenty of leg.
Yeah. Fourth and 27 from our own 23-yard line. Send out the kicker.
The future.
He's got the tank treads.
Yeah.
Rolling out there.
Then he rolls. Then he turns around and blasts the lasers and turns on humans. Yeah. Oh man, what a fun time that would be. We come back on the afternoon sports drive. The Chiefs have lost 2 straight. And apparently the season is over, according to some people. They are dead last in the AFC West. However, they did just make a move like an hour ago. It's a pretty big name that we'll get to as well. The Packers' unbelievable game last night. We'll take a look at that as well. Coming up next on the afternoon sports drive. Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster with you on this Monday afternoon. Well, I really didn't expect to be sitting there yesterday watching Kansas City lose their second straight. This had the potential again to be a great shootout type of affair with the Chargers. It just did. But, and let me say this, because there are, like a lot of people clearly, they, and especially the younger fans that don't know anything besides Patrick Mahomes. They don't know how to take losses because they haven't seen a lot of them, especially in the month of September. So they don't really know. But us that can remember the Brody Croyle days and the Tyler Thigpen days, yeah,
Thigpen?
Pigpen, right? Remember? I mean, we remember those quarterbacks. And that was nothing. We knew we were going to go in and be the underdog. So now it's changed, and that's just what comes with the territory. Do I think this is something that will continue for the whole season? No. Absolutely not. Do I think that the league, this is another question I've seen thrown out, has figured out Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill? No, not for a second. Tyreek Hill, 2 weeks now. He's been bottled up for the most part. Defenses have figured out how to take away some of his long game, but that's something that Kansas City has to adjust to. Because it's so easy to send Tyreek Hill way down the field and think he's going to outrun everybody. But when you start playing two high safeties and they double, triple team him at times, just start running shorter routes. Just get him the ball. That's an adjustment that they have to make that they haven't made yet.
What was the score? How many points did Kansas City lose by?
Kansas City ended up losing by 6. It was 30-24. And they had that final Hail Mary opportunity.
So if your all-pro Super Bowl champion receiver doesn't fumble a pass across the middle,
right,
that gets returned for a touchdown, probably win that game.
And Clyde fumbles again.
Yeah, in the first half.
The first half was nothing but turnovers.
Those were rough.
It was terrible. Mahomes throws 2 picks. Now, the first pick wasn't his fault. It bounced right off a dude's hands. Second pick, absolutely not good. And that's why I think that at that time, a lot of this game does fall on Patrick Mahomes. Like, usually you can actually go through and say this loss wasn't his fault. Like last week against Baltimore wasn't his fault, right? Clyde fumbles the game away. But this week, a lot of it was. He tried to do, and this was the second straight week, he tried to do too much on a ball he never should have thrown. And he does that because a lot of the times he's done things that no one understands how he completed a pass here and there. But on this one, he's getting taken down. He's trying to get the ball to Travis Kelce, and he throws it so far over his head where he should have just taken the down and lived to see another day. That's it. But he didn't. He threw it way over his head. It was a bad throw. It was a great pick, and it's something that he's not even able to come back from. And I'll tell you this: when they turn the ball over like they did all day, those 2 fumbles, the picks, it's too sloppy even for the Chiefs' offense, right, to overcome. You can't be that sloppy against the Chargers and expect to win a game. And on top of it all, as you know, Zach, the Chiefs' defense right now is very suspect. Very suspect. That's where my actual worry lies. And I'm not worried at all about the offense. Andy Reid's too good of a coach, and Eric Bieniemy's still there, and the offense is too talented. They'll figure that out. No, I'm not worried at all. But the defense, it does scare me a little bit. Because if the offense doesn't play perfect at times, it can be hard to win those types of games where the defense is not able to stop anybody. And then on top of it, Zach, I got to credit to the Chargers, man. I mean, Justin Herbert is so mechanically sound.
Yeah,
it's
played
insane
really well
for his age. And the stats are not overwhelming with the amount of yards that Justin Herbert had. But he didn't have to do that. His touchdowns were there, and the big throws were there. And this is, with the Justin Herbert thing, is where I will plant my flag, and I'll stand by it forever and ever and ever, okay? If I had to claim one thing, that's it. Because I clamored for him in the draft coming out of Oregon. All teams that ended up passing on him messed up, man. You think the Dolphins wouldn't rather have him than Tua, right? That was something I was saying in the draft. Like, Justin Herbert, I know he played at Oregon, and a lot of people don't really even know about him because they barely watched him play, and he's playing some of these crappy Pac-12 defenses. But, man, he's so good mechanically. I even said him when he got in the league. Last year with the Chargers, it was like he's sitting there through whatever it was, 3 games, and Tyrod Taylor's stinking it up. Like, Justin Herbert is, I'm telling you, he was sitting on a gold mine, and he only got in because Tyrod Taylor lost his lung in a freak accident. And the rest is history. So this team right now could really be 3-0. The Chargers I'm talking about. They really could. I think they're dangerous, and I do think this was the big win finally for Justin Herbert. Like, he's had some good ones. He nearly beat Kansas City in that game where that happened. He was asked to start minutes before the game. He nearly beat them last year. And they were, the offense was great last year. But look, Kansas City, the last game, I think, they put up like 35 points against Baltimore and still lost. That's not going to happen very often. You put that amount of points. 24 against the Chargers. Probably need more than that, but you still scored some points. So the offense is not something I'm worried about overall, Zach, but the defense has to get better. There does need to be adjustments made because I thought it was a pretty shaky game for Mahomes overall and for the offense overall. But getting Tyreek out there and using him differently, if the Chiefs make that adjustment, everything falls into place. Everything. Because Travis Kelce's still going to be there. And then we find out today that they're going to add Josh Gordon to the list. Old Josh Gordon for I told you 7 different times now he's been reinstated into the league.
I give him 4 weeks.
Yeah, I said it at 3. Because
4.
I love Josh Gordon, man. I always have rooted for him. But he's had so many chances. He just can't get it right. And I hope this is it. I hope Kansas City is the place where he can finally go through an entire season here. And he can play this Sunday. I don't know if he will. I have my doubts maybe that he'll actually be out there already. But also said you need a wide receiver too. Mecole Hardman, yeah, he's got the speed. But Josh Gordon's been there, done that, man. You throw him into that mix with Patrick Mahomes, I think great things could happen. So this is one of those losses, Zach, that it's early on. I tweeted yesterday, thank goodness the Chiefs are getting the losing out of their system now. Because are any of us going to be surprised when the AFC Championship game rolls around and they're sitting there ready for whoever?
Yes.
I mean,
season's over.
Yeah, there's
washed.
a lot of people who said that, man. It's crazy.
There's a guy that I'm very close with, helped get me into broadcasting. Diehard Chiefs fan. Been a Chiefs fan for decades. Lived in Kansas City half his life. And you would have thought the end of the franchise had taken place because I just doom and gloom and the season's over and Patrick Mahomes got his money and now he's over and blah, blah, blah. 2 games in.
Man, he obviously hasn't won. Come on. If you've watched Chiefs for that long, man, come on.
Things will be fine.
Well,
we're barely into this thing.
Yeah, and it makes it worse because, yes, right now they're last in the AFC West, right? The Raiders, but the Raiders for the most part, too, have benefited from, and the Broncos, softer schedules. They're both this week going to find out if they're for real or not.
Well, and how many of those teams that are doing well right now, get them 14 weeks into the season?
Right, exactly. They're about to find out pretty quickly. Both these teams are this week if they're there or not.
You tell me how many times Denver's going to blank a team.
Exactly. They played the Jets. The Jets couldn't beat. I mean,
the Jets couldn't beat the Jets.
Oh my gosh, they're so bad. They're so bad. But the Chargers are the real threat. That's it. I don't think the Raiders hold on for as long as everyone thinks this season. They may be a fringe playoff team, maybe. But Kansas City and LA, they're going to be battling out for first place before it's all said and done. So it's no reason to freak out. There's certain adjustments they got to make. It was kind of scary after the game. Got word that Andy Reid left in an ambulance.
Yeah.
Found out he was dehydrated. He's good to go.
He's a sweater.
He's a sweater, big time. I'm thinking, man, with Andy Reid and he's a big dude. Like he needs to not let that happen. But I also thought, well, the way the Chiefs played certainly would make me want to, could probably
sweat a lot.
Yeah, I'd be sweating and upset about it. But man, give credit to the Chargers where it's due. I know they're in the division for the team that I love and root for, but man, I could watch Justin Herbert all day. He's unbelievable. Last night, the Packers, what a game that was.
Great game.
What a game. On Sunday Night Football, the Niners come back. A couple of big-time conversions. I think it was on third and 10 twice on that last drive. The Jimmy G converted passes, and his turnovers were a problem again. And that's kind of the thing, because if you look at his overall game, the only really good thing he did, Jimmy G, was that last drive.
Yeah.
He got the Niners where they needed to be. That was big-time football, and that was good to see from him. He threw it to Juszczyk, the fullback. Then they scored the touchdown. But I think it was, 37 seconds is what was on the clock.
Way too much time.
37 seconds. And he saw that classic picture again, right? The Green Bay fan in the stands takes the picture.
They're cheering with a minute left.
Yeah, he goes, way too much time. And this had been taken, there was one that had happened against the Cowboys in years past. It's like, do we not know? It's Aaron Rodgers. You give him 37 seconds, and he's going to go 6 plays, and he gets the team in field goal position.
To the middle of the field, too.
Wide open.
Didn't even throw outs.
No.
Throwing across the middle.
That's what's so scary about the Packers, man. No matter what time, if Aaron Rodgers is on his game, he's going to be able to find guys.
I made an assumption, and now I look crazy.
You look crazy because
Now I
you
look
made that
crazy.
assumption. Aaron Rodgers, he's good to go, man. Afterwards, they showed him on the sideline. He's watching Mason Crosby kick it. He's going crazy.
Yes.
He gives that interview afterwards asking, like, how could you not be romantic about this game? This is a great game. So right now, things seem to be in the right direction after that mess of a week 1 performance that he had out there. And I think he's in line for another great season. We all knew this was probably going to end up being the case. And a great comeback win there for him. But the thing with Jimmy G, last night they throw Trey Lance in a couple of times. He scores a touchdown right on the goal line. And it just kind of like they tease the fans. And it made me, like, they asked him at halftime, they asked Kyle Shanahan, they're like, hey, will we see more of Trey Lance? And his response was no. It just felt like it was the right time. And 2 plays later, he was out there again. I guess like it was the right time. But I was like, man, how long? How long until this whole Jimmy G thing goes out the window?
5 games.
I said it at like 4 weeks, and we're coming up on week 4, and he's a serviceable guy. But he has to have a lot of great things go on for him. Trey Lance, we'll never, are we going to know or not? I understand the whole, Trey Lance learning from a QB that's been around there, been to a Super Bowl. That's great. But at some point, if you want to win games all season long in an extremely competitive division where, based off what we saw with the Rams, too, yesterday, you're looking at potentially a Super Bowl team in them, and the Cardinals are going to compete. The Seahawks are always going to be in the mix. You got to get after it, man. I think Trey Lance is maybe the answer down the line, but I just don't know if they'll ever pull the trigger.
So should we have seen Andy Dalton or any other backup quarterback?
Oh, boy.
6 of 20, 68 yards.
Justin Fields had
12 rushing yards.
He was sacked 9 times. 9 times.
Ugh.
Myles Garrett had 4.5 by himself.
Isn't that crazy? There's guys that go a whole season without getting 4 sacks.
That's just unbelievable. Yeah, what he did was unbelievable. That was a really bad first outing.
You made an assumption.
I did,
and now
but
you look crazy.
I also didn't think. I knew the Chicago offensive line was bad, but my goodness,
I didn't think it would be that
You're
bad.
going to allow 9 sacks, really?
Yikes.
Really? I mean, it was just terrible.
Just in, Justice Fields once traded.
Well, and what's crazy is now he got a little banged up in the game, so he's questionable. You could be looking at Nick Foles again coming into this week. Nick Foles, and you know what's going to happen? Nick Foles is going to go out there, win a game, and everyone's going to be like, "See,
he's going to take him to the playoffs. He's going to get a big extension, and then he's going to ride off into the sunset."
And gets another big extension. Goes in and beats some team in the Super Bowl. Stinks it up the next year with whichever team he's with. Yeah.
I understand he's only had 1 game, but we've gone ahead and re-signed Nick Foles to a multi-year contract extension.
It's Nick Foles' time, baby. He can't wait. He actually might be out there Sunday. That's unbelievable. Yeah, not a great time for Justin Fields. Trey Lance, though, I think he needs to. If San Francisco fans, when they watch that game last night, they're got to be thinking, look, we appreciate Jimmy G. We appreciate him helping us get to that Super Bowl that year. He was a big part of it for sure. But there's a lot being thrown out there that's left to be desired. And I'm not saying you have to expect rookie quarterbacks to go in and just win games immediately.
Yeah.
I don't expect that for Mac Jones. I don't expect that certainly for Trevor Lawrence in his situation.
The problem is you had Justin Herbert go out there and do what he did, and he set this bar so high that everyone's like, well, Justin Fields is now in the game, and he has to go out there and do what he did. And now Trey Lance needs to replace Jimmy G, and Justin Herbert is a freak of nature, and he set the bar so, Justin Fields is like, great.
Yeah.
I played like a rookie, like I was supposed to, but I'm awful.
Yeah,
I'm not Justin Herbert.
All these rookie QBs have been that way.
Yeah.
And Justin Herbert came in, and there was literally, no learning curve.
It's a bit of a booty class.
Yeah. Well, he just
look good.
It's a rough start, man. And again, it happens. There's going to be guys that it's going to take a while. In a year or two, if Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields and Trey Lance are all doing well in the NFL, I don't think anybody will be surprised. But, yeah, Justin Herbert, I know I've said that multiple times as well. What he did has a lot of teams saying, we could hit on this.
It's unfair.
But we could also do what the Chiefs did, for instance, and sit him a year and turn into a superstar, which what they might be doing with Trey Lance. So you're using him sparingly right now, but I'm telling you, Niners fans are looking at this saying, ugh, come on now. We got to have a little bit more than this. Great game, though, last night on Sunday Night Football. When we come back on the afternoon sports drive, we'll say goodbye and tell you what we learned. It's coming up next.
Whoa. Staring as I go, I gave until my soul hurt, never told them so. Watching as I
Welcome back in Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio. Patrick Wheeler and Zach Lancaster with you as we get ready to say goodbye for the day. But before we do, we'll tell you what we learned.
The day is coming to an end. Time to find out if these two got any smarter. Let's find out what the guys learned today on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Well, I learned something today.
Well, Zach, it was interesting that you had mentioned before the break there about the Jets because, oh, man. You know, they thought, let's get Zach Wilson. And I really do think some people in the organization, maybe even the fan base, thought, that's it, we're good. We got Zach Wilson, man. But as we said, that's maybe, hopefully, if you hit on him, piece number one. You have nothing else. You're not bringing him into any good situation here. You're bringing him in to fail overall. And based off what I saw, now this is a good Broncos defense, but still, based off what I saw from him alone, I wanted to scratch my eyes out watching that game. I didn't watch fully. I just tuned in to kind of see what was going on with Zach Wilson. But my goodness, he looked terrible. And he doesn't have anyone to throw it to. I know that. But 19 of 35, 160 yards, and 2 interceptions. And the Broncos won that game 26-0. You know how actually hard it is in today's day and age to not score some points in the NFL? Like, in the game? That's so hard. And what I kind of thought of when I saw this was, I'm getting weird, eerie Sam Darnold vibes when he was there. And I think that the Jets are on the verge of turning Zach Wilson into Sam Darnold. I really do think that. Because Zach Wilson's talented. I think he can be a good quarterback in a good situation. But Sam Darnold's also not a terrible quarterback. He's shown that now that he's in a good environment. With Carolina, he's got weapons. He's a decent, serviceable quarterback. Much, much better than he was in New York. And I think Zach Wilson is going to end up headed down that path. In a year or two, we're talking about, man, he's bad. He's making bad decisions. The team is awful because the Jets have zero interest, it seems like, in ever trying to actually build something.
Yeah.
They're just content every single year with being terrible, stocking up draft picks, and hoping that they end up working out. Eventually, you got to end up making a move, right? The biggest one they made in the past probably was the Le'Veon Bell one, and we saw how that turned out.
Yeah, bring Sam Darnold back.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like I'm seeing way too, and it's not Adam Gase at this point. And you're asking, I get it's a new, Robert Saleh, first-year head coach, and he can only do so much, but there's nothing to work with over in the organization. It's so historically bad, and Zach Wilson, when he got drafted, thrilled to be in the league, obviously, and a high draft pick. But he saw where he was going with the Jets. Trevor Lawrence was extremely thankful that the Jags ended up getting the first pick and not the Jets. But it's just a situation where I feel like, especially for young quarterbacks, when they get thrust into this, their development is so important over the first couple of years, and he's going to have none of it in New York. If anything, it could set him back a couple of years. So I feel bad for the dude, but at the same time, we knew what he was walking into. The Jets are this lifeless, horrible organization, poorly run from the top down. I like Robert Saleh. Can't really blame him, like I said, for this in his first year. But there's just nobody. The lack of weapons is excruciating to watch. So I just saw, when I thought that yesterday, I was like, I've seen this before. I saw what happened to Sam Darnold. And people, just like Zach Wilson, were high on him coming in the league. They said Sam Darnold's really talented. He's a great thrower. Big-time coaches were saying this. Pete Carroll couldn't talk enough about him. Same thing with Zach Wilson. Dude's talented, extremely talented. Big arm, great accuracy. Now look, we're 3 games in, and they just put up the biggest stinker I've seen in a long time against the Broncos. I'm seeing really eerily similar things here, and I hope it's not the case for him.
Spencer Rattler to New York.
Yeah, let's try it again next year.
So I found it out over the weekend. I didn't find it out today. One of the best parts of the weekend, right? Oklahoma State's win over Kansas State is huge. Beat number 25, beat them at home, did it really well in the first half. You're ranked in the Associated Press for the first time this season at number 19. You were unranked. You were like, I don't know, 28, 29 or something. You jumped at least 10 spots. You're ranked higher than Clemson. That's huge. You're still undefeated. All of that's fantastic. But the highlight of the night, for me anyway, was Charlie Dickey's son, who Mike talked about it today, about how, you know, he's always around the team and he's always with his dad, and so they, you know, trying to find a hype man after the game to celebrate, and he said, well, let's get Junior to do it. And like on cue, you see the video, and he comes running around his dad, does a cartwheel, does the Gundy dance. I mean, one of the best. I mean, and you can see I think the best part for me is that you see the team in the background, and they're just going nuts. It's awesome.
Yeah, that was a cool video.
It's awesome. If you haven't seen it, you can go to PokesReport.com. It's on the top of the front page. Absolutely fantastic. That is the highlight of the weekend for me.
Yeah, I thought that too. I was like, man, that's a fun way to cap it off right there. Yeah, everyone hyping him up. They were on him. It was so cool to see. That's for sure. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio. That's Zach Lancaster, and I'm Patrick Wheeler. We'll be back tomorrow at 3 o'clock, and until then, everyone have a fantastic Monday evening.